When I was doing my first movie, the only thing I knew is I wanted a female editor, because I just felt a female editor would be more nurturing to the movie and to me. I wouldn't try to be winning their way just to win their way, all right? They wouldn't be trying to shove their agenda or win their battles with me. They would be nurturing me through this process.
Editing has been around since the invention of film itself. Unlike more modern jobs such as sound mixing and color keying, editing is virtually fundamental to creating any narrative film.
It's all for telling the story. And all you want to do is get the person emotionally invested in the story, so it becomes this invisible craft.
At its inception, editing was incredibly tedious and difficult and involved many steps. So naturally, women were drafted to do most of the work.
You now needed an industrial system to make this all work. In the first 20, 25, 30 years of cinema, large numbers of editors were women. It was considered to be a woman's job because it was something like knitting, it was something like tapestry, sewing, that you took these pieces of fabric, which is what film are, and you put them together.
It consisted of lengthy, monotonous tasks such as cutting and exposing film, then selecting the usable footage. Several women had the chance to actually place the film in narrative order alongside the director. In this time period, around 1910, the concept of a narrative feature-length film was just beginning to blossom, meaning these women were a large part of who pioneered the formatting of the movies we know today. One of the most prominent editors at the time was Margaret Booth, who, for a while, worked for D.W. Griffith, director of Birth of a Nation. She quickly grew out of her amateur role of film cutter and became a passionate editor well known within the editing community.
She oversaw all the production and had a say in almost everyone. But Maggie was probably the toughest and most feared woman at MGM. I mean, people would shudder when they hear that she was on the phone or she'd bust into the editing room, or you'd get a call, come down to room F, which is her room. You'd think, oh God, what have I done now?
She had a long, fruitful career and in 1978 was given a Lifetime Achievement Award at the Oscars.
And the winner is Thelma Schoonmaker.
Ever since the Academy has given out awards for picture editing, women have been winning them. In contrast to the director category only having 5 female nominees, and cinematography only claiming 1, female editors actually frequent their nomination category. In fact, there was even a woman nominated the first year they gave out editing awards. Her name was Anne Botchins, nominated for editing Cleopatra.
Am I to understand then that you feel free to do with me whatever you want? Whenever you want?
She didn't win that year, but in 1940 she did, for the film Northwest Mounted Police. What's even more surprising, women have been nominated in the editing category nearly every year since its inception. But despite how much they thrive, there's clearly still a lack of recognition. One of film history's largest examples of this is the partnership between director Martin Scorsese and his editor Thelma Schoonmaker. The pairing have worked together since 1980's Raging Bull, and she has edited every Scorsese movie since. That's 19 movies in all.
What would be your advice for aspiring filmmakers?
Well, I would say search for the truth always. Try and lay down humanity in the film and true emotion, but not sentimentality.
She's received 17 Oscar nominations and 3 wins, and is recognized by professionals as one of the greatest living editors of all time. But, of course, the mainstream public doesn't know any of this. We just know Scorsese. Despite the overwhelming lack of recognition female editors face, their presence in the industry remains shockingly large. A study done by San Diego State University found that in 2014, 18% of the 250 highest grossing films of that year were edited by women, in comparison to the 11% written, 7% directed, and a mere 5% photographed. There's a sort of immediate praise in the way that society discusses female inclusion in the film industry today. This year saw the first nomination of a woman in the cinematography category at the Oscars. Rachel Morrison was nominated for her work on 2017's Mudbound and was met with ceaseless admiration. Clearly, America has a willingness to highlight progress, yet the whole situation seems hypocritical when considering the long-term non-recognition of female editors. While the invention of narrative film editing at first took advantage of women's menial labor, they've since been able to excel in editing and make it their own. Through dozens of generations, female editors have formed a matriarchy of sorts, a space that is equal parts feminine and masculine in order to create stunning art that, unfortunately, goes entirely unrecognized. So what now? Well, the first step is awareness. By educating others on the long-standing existence of female editors, years of misogynistic neglect can gradually be undone. Women in the editing industry have done far too much monumental work to slip between the cracks of history.